Church stood as a silent sentinel against the vast Texas night, its whitewashed walls glowing softly beneath the moonlight. Inside, George Strait found himself enveloped by a stillness that seemed both foreign and familiar. The air felt thick, heavier than the weight of the guitar slung across his back. Tonight he was not just a country singer. He was a man grappling with shadows from his past, seeking solace in a place that once nurtured his spirit. He stepped lightly on the cool tile floor, his boots echoing softly in the emptiness. Each reverberation of his footsteps reminded him of the gathering crowd outside, the fans enveloped in anticipation, the flashing lights of cameras waiting to capture every moment of his performance. But all the accolades he had received felt hollow in this space where the music had first entered his heart, a space now swallowed by a deep sense of introspection. George drifted toward the altar, the flickering candles casting a warm glow over the pews. Just as he reached the front, something caught his eye. A folded letter, aged and quietly beckoning from the middle of a nearby pew. He approached with a cautious curiosity, the weight of nostalgia pulling him closer. Kneeling down, he picked it up, noticing the delicate script that sprawled across the paper like whispers from another time. The letter's edges were worn, hinting at its journey through time and emotion. As he unfolded it, he was drawn into a world of longing and confessions, each word echoing the echoes of love that had once stayed in his heart. "I think of you often," it began. "The dreams we painted together in the quiet corners of our town, how they seemed so real." The words poured out in a stream of hope and heartbreak, capturing a moment in life he had almost forgotten. George's heart pounded as he read on, the sentiments arresting him with their familiar weight. He could picture Maria, her laughter like sunshine filtering through clouds that never quite broke, her artistic spirit alive with color and light. Memories flooded back, the familiar warmth washing over him, mingling with the cold reality of his present. They had shared dreams under endless Texas skies, their futures intertwined like the melodies of their favorite songs. But ambition had tugged him away. In the pursuit of stardom, he had silenced the sweetest song of all, the one that played between them. He could feel the pangs of loss acutely now, as the letter laid bare the intensity of what had been and what was irrevocably lost. Each line pierced through layers of his carefully crafted facade, searching for the man he had been before fame held him captive. With a deep breath, George closed his eyes, the fragrance of aged wood and lingering incense wrapping around him like a protective shroud. Here, the vibrant sounds of applause were faded whispers, overshadowed by an emptiness that settled deep within. The walls felt like they were closing in, and he couldn't escape the stark reality. He had chosen fame over love, and the price had been steep. In that dimly lit church, surrounded by the weight of memories and the promise of reverberating notes, George was faced with a haunting realization. He had become a stranger to himself. Without a destination in mind, he had wandered into the chaos of celebrity, leaving behind the quiet song of his heart. The letter slipped from his fingers, landing softly on the pew like a feather. George turned his gaze upward, seeking comfort in the ethereal glow of the stained glass windows. Here in this sacred place, he understood he needed to find his way back to the melody that once defined him, to rediscover the rhythm of love that had been left unsung. The quiet of the church faded away as George's mind slipped back into the warmth of his memories, a time when life felt simple and love was a vibrant thread woven through every moment. With each breath, he could feel the embrace of the sun and the laughter of his youth, echoing like a sweet melody that filled the air around him. Flashback. It was a sun-kissed afternoon in Texas, the kind of day that wrapped the world in golden light. George and Maria were sprawled on a blanket in the meadow behind the local school, surrounded by wildflowers swaying gently in the soft breeze. The distant sound of a guitar welcomed the summer air, and they shared dreams like secrets, each word colored with the hopes of youth. "Do you think we'll ever make it big?" Maria's eyes sparkled, the grass tickling her bare feet as she leaned closer, the scent of her favorite jasmine perfume mingling with the earth. George grinned, his fingers brushing the strings of his guitar. "We'll play at the biggest venues. I'll write songs that'll make the world listen, and you'll paint the skies into your art." He could hear her laughter, bright and unrestrained, mixing beautifully with the strumming of his guitar. It fed the dreams that danced in their minds. They would perform together inseparable, the singer and the artist bound by passion and love. But as days turned into years, That innocent ambition burned brighter for George. He could hear the call of the road, the allure of fame whispering sweet nothings, overwhelming the steady rhythm of home. He had chosen music, sacrificing not only a relationship, but the very essence of joy they had built. Present. George winced at the remembrance. The moment of choice festered in his thoughts like an open wound, reminding him of the toll it had taken. As the flashback faded, he found himself back in the church, surrounded by the remains of what was and what could have been. He recalled a sunset performance, one of his first big concerts, when he had taken the stage with a heart full of excitement. The crowd roared, their energy intoxicating. But searching the faces that night, he hadn't seen Maria's. He had lost her long before. A pang of regret surged through him, sharper and more profound than the screaming applause that followed. Determined to reconnect with that warmth, George picked himself up and stepped out of the church, the cool night air wrapping around him. He drove aimlessly along the familiar roads, the rhythmic rumble of the tires mimicking the beat of his heart. The Texas landscape spread out before him, fields bathed in a silvery moonlight that conjured memories from every corner of his life. He made his way to the riverbank, where he and Maria had spent countless evenings, watching the stars twinkle above like a tapestry of dreams. He was met with the gentle lapping of water and the familiar rustle of wind through the trees. With a deep breath, he strummed his guitar, letting the sound splash against the night sky. Suddenly, the distant echo of laughter floated over the water, wrapping around him like a long-lost embrace. "Remember when we used to come here? Do you think the stars have missed us?" Maria's voice drifted through his mind, both a comfort and a reminder of what lay behind. He couldn't help but smile at her playful spirit. It was then that he realized how much he craved that connection, how deeply he longed for the laughter that had once filled his life. And it wasn't just the memory of her that hurt. It was the silence that had replaced it. George pulled out the letter again, feeling the weight of the words on the page. He hadn't just lost a potential career partner, he had lost a piece of himself. He remembered how Maria had always challenged him, pushed him to be better, not just in music, but in life. She had taught him to see the beauty in simplicity, to find art in everyday moments. There he sat on the riverbank, staring into the dark water, contemplating how to bridge the distances he had created. Reconnecting with Maria would mean confronting his past, facing the choices he had made, choices that seemed so clear at the time, but felt insurmountable now. He strummed a chord, letting it swell in the air before fading into silence. "I can't let fear keep me from what's right," he murmured to the night, ready to confront both his past and his future. The stars twinkled above him, a guide through the darkness. George Strait knew that he had to take the first step, to reach out, to apologize, to rediscover the song they had once started together. The journey of forgiveness and love lay before him, like an untouched melody, waiting for the right chords to echo once again. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, George returned home, his heart heavy but resolved. The quiet of his house greeted him like an old friend, yet the silence struck deeper than any applause he'd ever received. Fame lingered like a shadow here, looming large in the gaps between breaths, reminding him of the loneliness that filled his life, despite the glittering accolades. Days turned into weeks, and each morning brought a familiar cycle of success intertwined with solitude. George found himself enveloped in rehearsals and recording sessions, the constant whirlwind of his career, an attempt to drown out the aching echoes of the past. He poured his heart and soul into every note, yet they felt devoid of the authenticity that had once sparked his creativity. As he stood on stage singing to thousands, the applause washed over him like a river, but the deeper currents of loneliness remained unaddressed. One afternoon, a familiar face entered his life once again, Eli Rodriguez, his lifelong friend and music producer. Eli had witnessed George's ascent to stardom and the toll it took on him. The years had etched worry into his brow, and today he wasn't just a friend. He was a mirror reflecting the shadows of George's choices. "Hey man," Eli greeted, his voice warm with concern. "You've been keeping to yourself lately. Is everything all right?" George looked up, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Yeah, just the usual, you know. Touring, recording." Eli shook his head, his shoulders slumping with the weight of unspoken truths. "You're not fooling anyone, George. You're burning the candle at both ends, and for what? Success? Crowds?" He leaned in closer, the urgency in his voice rising. "What about what really matters?" "What do you mean?" George asked, his defensiveness clear, even as an underlying tension made his heart race. I mean, who's there when the lights go out? Who's there when it's just you? Eli locked eyes with him, searching for a flicker of acknowledgement in the storm brewing behind George's facade. In that moment, the distance between them felt palpable. George's throat tightened, struggling against the flood of emotion. Eli's directness exposed the cracks in his well-guarded exterior, and for the first time in a long while, he found himself reflecting on the choices that had led to this point. I don't know, he finally admitted, his voice choked. I thought success would fill the emptiness. Success doesn't fill you up, George. It's just a distraction, Eli replied, his tone softening. You're missing the connections that really matter. You're not just a singer. You're a friend, a partner, a son. You lost Maria, and now you're hiding from it, living in this bubble of fame while the real world moves on. The weight of Eli's words hung in the air, forcing George to grapple with the ache in his chest. Maria represented a life that had slipped through his fingers, and the bitterness of that loss blended hopelessly into the noise of his career. He had let the world define him, letting the pull of music overshadow the love that had once empowered his spirit. I'm trying, Eli. I want to reach out, George began, but the words felt fragile, ready to shatter as he grappled with fears of rejection. Then you need to act before it's too late, Eli urged, his voice heavy with sincerity. You can't run from your past forever. It's not just about music, it's about love, connection. You owe it to yourself and to her. Eli's words settled like an anchor, weighing George down amidst the chaos, and he felt that familiar pang of longing, a reminder of what was lost and what could still be salvaged. Could he dare to reopen old wounds, to revisit the memories that haunted him? With renewed determination, George picked up his guitar, the weight of it familiar against his fingers. He strummed a few chords, the notes a bittersweet echo of longing. Lyrical fragments formed in his heart as he began to write, not just about the love he had lost, but about the journey of rediscovery. In those hours of creativity, he poured out his soul, each note resonating with a longing for connection. As the music flowed, so did the realization that he could still reclaim what had once defined him. It was time to cast aside the loneliness, embrace vulnerability, and make his way back to the woman who had once inspired him to dream. With the dawn approaching, George resolved to reach out to Maria, determined to bridge the chasm he had created. The fear that had once frozen him began to thaw, replaced by the courage to step into the unknown. As he finished the last few lines of his new song, hope kindled within him, illuminating the path ahead like the first light of morning. I won't let fear guide my choices any longer, he whispered to himself, the newfound resolve igniting a desire to reconnect. It was time to find Maria, to embrace the love and authenticity that awaited him. The sun rose slowly over the Texas horizon, its golden rays spilling across the fields like spilled paint, awakening George to a newfound clarity. With every breath he took, he felt rejuvenated. Today would not be another day spent hiding behind the curtain of fame. Instead, it would be a day to reclaim his life and reconnect with the love that had so immovably intertwined with his soul. He grabbed his guitar, the strings still resonating with the notes he had poured out the night before. They were raw and honest, reflections of the heart he had nearly lost. But this was not merely music, it was a declaration, a promise to himself and to Maria that he would seek her out regardless of the outcome. George decided to start by visiting the little art gallery they used to frequent, a hidden gem tucked between the bustling shops of their hometown. He remembered the walls adorned with vibrant creations, each piece telling a story, just like the songs that had rolled off his tongue. He clutched his guitar closely as he walked the familiar streets, feeling the nerves knotting in his stomach. Upon entering the gallery, the scent of fresh paint and oil combined with a nostalgic warmth enveloped him. It felt like stepping back in time to a place where laughter and creativity danced freely. The tranquil atmosphere was a stark contrast to the loud spaces he had grown accustomed to on stage, and it instantly grounded him. Maria's artwork was displayed prominently on the far wall, a series of vivid landscapes that encapsulated their memories, stunning sunsets over distant mountains, fields of wildflowers swaying in the wind, and narrow country roads leading to forgotten dreams. He moved closer, captivated by the depth and emotion captured in each brushstroke. It felt as if she had poured her heart directly onto the canvas. "Can I help you with something?" A soft voice brought George back to the present. The gallery curator, an elderly woman with kind eyes, stood nearby, her head tilted slightly in curiosity. "I'm just looking for someone," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "Maria Dunn. Is she around?" The woman's expression shifted. "Maria? She hasn't been in for a while." There was a flicker of sympathy in her gaze that made George's heart tighten. "She's taken some time off to focus on herself. Do you know where I might find her?" he asked urgently, hoping for a lead. She hesitated, glancing down at her hands, as if weighing her words carefully. "I believe she's out by the river. She often draws inspiration from the nature there." George didn't need to be told twice. He thanked the curator and hurried out of the gallery, the strength of his purpose compelling him forward. As he walked, memories of laughter from the past flooded his mind. They had shared countless sunsets by that very river, dreaming about the futures that lay ahead. Reaching the riverbank, he could see it glistening in the distance under the midday sun, the water gliding smoothly, carrying with it fragments of thoughts and hopes. When he arrived, he took a moment to catch his breath, the sight overwhelming him. There she stood, as vibrant and beautiful as the landscape surrounding her, absorbed in her canvas. Maria was laughing to herself, her brush dancing over the canvas, colors swirling in elegant harmony. The sight sent a jolt of nostalgia through George, the woman he had longed to see, the artist who had painted his heart in shades of love. Tentatively, he approached. "Maria!" The sound of her name escaped his lips as a quiet song, a melody that had been waiting to be sung. She turned slowly, surprise etched across her features. "George?" Her voice was both a question and a memory, awakening the past with its lilt. In that single moment, the world around them faded. The river, the colors, the day itself melted into insignificance as they locked eyes. He stood there trying to find the right words, groping for the emotions that had pent up inside him like a storm waiting to break. He began, but faltered as the weight of years spent apart crashed over him. "I'm here to apologize for everything, for letting my dreams blind me to the beauty we had." Her expression softened, but uncertainty simmered beneath the surface. "You have no idea how much I missed you, George, but it's been hard. You went away, and I felt like I had to move on." "I know," he said, pain lacing his voice. "I was a fool to think I could find happiness without you. The success that I chased has felt like an empty trophy. It doesn't mean anything without the people who matter." Maria regarded him thoughtfully, the brush still poised in her hand as if considering the weight of her response. "You think it's easy coming back, don't you? After everything?" George stepped closer, longing to bridge the gap that stretched between them. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I understand if you're angry or hurt. You have every right to be, but I want to try. No, I need to try. I refuse to let silence hold us hostage anymore." Tentatively, she lowered the brush, her gaze penetrating into his very core. For a heartbeat, he could see the flicker of hope amidst uncertainty, a rhythm building that matched the melody in his heart. "I'm not the same person you remember, George," she finally said, vulnerability staining her words. "I've grown. Life's taught me a lot about love and loss. I want to learn that with you again," he whispered. "It's not just about music. It's about us. Let's rebuild. I've written a new song and it's for you, for us. Can we start over?" A flicker of emotion danced in her eyes, and for a moment her resolve softened. "Starting over sounds daunting yet beautiful," she admitted, her heart visibly working through the walls of fear. In that moment, George stepped forward, taking her hands in his, the electricity between them palpable. As he began to hum the tune of his new song, each note carried the weight of their shared past and the promise of their future. The music wound its way around them, drawing them into a familiar dance, a rebirth of the love they once knew. With every word he sang, the river mirrored their emotions, flowing stronger and deeper. And as Maria listened, she felt the notes resonate in her heart, awakening the dreams they had once shared. Together, they began to rewrite their story, crafting a new melody that would embrace the lessons of their shared past and the hope of what lay ahead. Time slipped away as they lost themselves in the moment. The river continued to flow, its currents wild yet steady, symbolic of their journey together, one rooted in love, resilience, and the unending hope of tomorrow. The weeks following George and Maria's heartfelt reunion unfolded like the pages of a long-forgotten book, with each day offering new chapters to their shared story. Together, They dove into their rekindled bond, confronting the ghosts of their past while nurturing the vibrant seeds of their love. Yet as they explored this renewed connection, old shadows loomed, whispering cautions in the corners of their minds. One warm evening, beneath the sprawling branches of an ancient oak, they sat together as the setting sun cast a golden glow around them. The guitar rested on George's lap, a constant companion in their journey of rediscovery. As he strummed softly, the notes floated into the evening air, a gentle reminder of the love that had endured the tests of time and circumstance. "Do you think we'll ever get it right?" Maria mused, her voice barely above a whisper. She stared at the sunset, her thoughts wandering through the tapestry of their shared past. "Every day is a step forward. We'll learn together," George replied, determination infusing his words. "Every note we play brings us closer." "But what if the past pulls us back?" she questioned, her gaze turning toward him, doubt flickering in her deep brown eyes. "What if I get scared again?" George set his guitar aside, leaning closer, their proximity allowing the crackling tension of uncertainty to seep into the air. "I won't let that happen. You're safe with me. We can face the ghosts together. We won't let fear dictate our path." An understanding passed between them, woven from threads of heartbreak and hope, yet the insecurities they carried from previous wounds haunted their every step. One fateful evening, as they were rehearsing one of George's new songs bathed in the warmth of the gallery, he noticed Maria slipping into silence, her vibrant spirit dulled. "What's wrong?" he asked, his heart tightening with concern. "I don't know, George. I feel like I'm trying to fit into this new version of us, but..." Her voice faltered, eyes searching for clarity. "What if I'm not enough for you?" George knelt beside her, gently cupping her face. "You're more than enough. You've inspired me in ways I can't even describe. It's about walking this path together, not just keeping up." Tears spilled down her cheeks, mingling with the colors on her palette. "I buried myself in my art, but forgot how to connect, how to let someone else in." "You're not alone anymore," he assured her, his voice thick with emotion. "We're both learning. It's okay to be afraid, but what we have is worth fighting for." "So do you believe in us?" Maria nodded, the warmth of his presence contrasting sharply against her fears. "Yes, but sometimes it feels exhausting, like I'm battling a tide." "Then let's ride those waves together," George implored, a flicker of hope igniting within him. With renewed commitment, they spent long nights creating a new piece, one that would define their past as well as the life they envisioned together. Weeks drifted by, and as they indulged in their passions, Maria embracing her paintings while George crafted music, they faced numerous challenges. He introduced her to the backstage life of a musician, guiding her through the chaos of tour schedules and live performances. She watched him captivate audiences, mesmerized by the ease with which he poured his soul into every note, and gradually, pieces of her own confidence began to emerge. But just as clouds began to part, a storm brewed on the horizon. One evening, an agent approached George after a performance with an enticing offer, a record deal that could transform everything. The proposal sent ripples of excitement through George, but as he listened, a sinking sensation filled his heart. The deal demanded relinquishing some creative control, and that was everything he had fought to reclaim. Conflicted, he knew he had to discuss it with Maria. That night he found her in the gallery, painting with fierce intensity. The vibrant hues on her canvas felt muted, reflecting the turmoil stirring within him. "Maria, we need to talk," he said, his voice low, the weight of his words heavy with unspoken fears. "About what?" she asked, still focused on her artwork. "An agent approached me tonight with a record deal. It could set us up for life, but I'd have to give up some creative control, and that worries me," he admitted, wariness clouding his features. Her expression shifted, surprise morphing into concern. "What do you want, George?" "I want our music to retain its soul. I want us to stay whole," he replied, desperation creeping into his voice. "But I also want to explore this potential opportunity. Honestly, I'm torn." "Sounds like the classic George Strait dilemma," Maria remarked, a hint of a smile softening her features. "Follow the path to stardom or the heart's true calling." "Exactly," he replied, exhaling heavily. "But you're a part of this now. I don't want to navigate a decision that could change our future without you." Maria stepped closer, her heartbeat racing. "You have to follow your passion, but we can tackle this together. I'll support whatever decision you choose. Then let's create a new song. one that captures this journey, the trials we've faced, the healing we've sought. As the words flowed between them, George reached for his guitar once more, eagerly strumming a melody that encapsulated their shared emotions. United in their struggles, they spent the long night building a new piece, one that would redefine their love and express their future together. Shadows lingered, and doubts whispered through the cracks, but they drew one another closer, forging a bond resilient enough to withstand any storm. Outside, stars twinkled overhead, echoing the heartbeats and visions they cradled within. They had faced the challenges, navigated through the dark, and emerged into the light of possibilities. Together, they were ready to embrace whatever the future held, hand in hand, as a beautifully chaotic duet, prepared for the journey that lay ahead. The days turned into weeks, and the air was thick with anticipation. George and Maria navigated the complexities of their evolving relationship, while the potential record deal loomed heavily in their minds. George felt the weight of the choice pressing on his shoulders like the strings of his guitar, each pull promising the sweetness of melody, but also the threat of distortion. One morning, Maria stood paintbrush in hand, her canvas mirroring the vibrant sunrise. Bursting with energy, she turned to George, who was perched on the porch steps with his guitar. "I've been thinking," she said, her voice bright amidst the morning light. "Maybe you should take the deal. It could open doors for you. We can always adapt." George paused, fingers stilling on the strings. "Maria," he began, taking a deep breath, "it's not just about me. I don't want to sacrifice our sound for the spotlight. Or our future," she countered, searching his face for signs of hope. "Imagine what we could do as a team with greater resources. We could explore new avenues for your music, and for us." He looked out at the sunrise, contemplating her words. "You know they'll want to have a say in everything. My songs, my image. We've fought so hard to create something authentic. But isn't that what art is? A constant evolution?" she pressed, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "What if this is the chance we need to share your music with even more people? Think of all the stories you can tell." The thought hung in the air like the notes of a lingering melody. George swallowed, exhaling slowly, as doubt tinged the optimism buzzing around them. "I want to share my music, I really do, but I can't shake the fear of losing what makes it us." As the sun climbed higher, the conversation shifted into a deeper exploration of their dreams. The hues in Maria's painting shifted from sunrise yellows to deep blues as she added layers, reflecting her uncertainty. "George, the world will change whether we want it to or not. As artists, we can either adapt or get left behind. We need to take risks or risk never knowing our full potential." He tilted his head, truly contemplating her words. They reverberated in his heart like a song yet to be played. "You really believe that, don't you?" "I have to," she said resolutely, her eyes glistening with passion. "You have a gift worth sharing. With or without this deal, your music deserves to be heard." After a long moment of silence, George finally nodded, a spark igniting within him. "Okay, I'll consider it, but it has to be on our terms. I won't let them change our sound." Maria beamed as her joy illuminated the space around them. "That's the spirit. Let's go in there with our heads held high and our hearts fully open." With that breakthrough, George spent the following days reflecting on the essence of their collaboration, digging deep for the heartbeat of the music they wanted to share with the world. Every strum of his guitar resonated with confidence as he crafted songs infused with their shared journey, with resilience woven into the lyrics. The evening of the meeting arrived, and nerves crackled in the air as George and Maria stood outside the order executive's office, the dim light spilling out onto the polished floor. Maria squeezed his hand for reassurance, her warmth grounding him amidst the sea of uncertainty. "Whatever happens, I'm with you," she urged him softly, her voice steady. "Thanks, Maria. I couldn't do this without you," he replied, heart racing. As they entered, George instantly felt the difference in the atmosphere. The sleek decor and polished smiles of the agents contrasted sharply with the intimate setting of his previous music. He took a deep breath, remembering Maria's words. They presented their new ideas with passion. With each phrase, George's confidence grew, fueled by the knowledge that his authentic self was at stake. The executives nodded along, their laughter warming the room, but never crossing the line into insincerity. "Your sound is unique, George," the lead agent said, leaning forward, enthusiasm lighting his eyes. "But we see a tremendous opportunity to make it even bigger. There are avenues we could explore together." directions that could really elevate you. George exchanged glances with Maria, who silently encouraged him. I appreciate that, and I truly value my artistry. It's about more than just expanding. I want something genuine, something that connects. One of the promoters interjected, "We can definitely work on that. The key is collaboration. We don't change your sound but amplify it. You'll reach a wider audience, and the message will ring even louder. I would like to be in control of that process, however," George stated firmly. "It's important for both of us." His heart pounded as he waited for their reactions. A moment of silence passed. The team traded glances as if gauging his intent. Finally, the lead agent nodded, impressed. "That's very reasonable. If you're the artist we believe you are, we can make it work." After the meeting, they walked out together, the weight of uncertainty replaced by the exhilarating rush of possibility. "How do you feel?" Maria asked, glancing at him, anticipation shimmering in her gaze. "I feel hopeful," he admitted, barely containing a smile. "Like we nailed it." "You did great," she exclaimed, excitement spilling over into her voice. This could be the beginning of something incredible. As they walked under the starlit sky, the night air carried a sense of renewal. George felt a spark of clarity lighting his way. He and Maria stood on the brink of a new journey, one that embraced change while honoring their roots. They were ready to face it together, cultivating the love and artistry that had brought them back to each other. In that moment, George realized that the energy between them wasn't just an echo of the past. It was a melody composed of love, anticipation, and unwavering faith in what lay ahead. They were ready to compose a new chapter together, hand in hand, heart to heart, embracing the song of their evolving story. As the days melded into months, George and Maria wove their lives into a rich tapestry of music and love. Their collaboration flourished, and each day in the studio felt like a new adventure. The record label honored George's distinctive sound while striving to amplify it, creating an atmosphere bursting with creativity. In the studio, the soft glow of lights wrapped around them, casting shadows that danced to the rhythm of their hearts. George would strum his guitar, while Maria sketched vibrant images that mirrored their emotions. "Do you think this captures what we're feeling?" he would ask, searching her expressive eyes for affirmation. "Absolutely," she would respond, her face lighting up with excitement. "It's alive. This is what we want to share with the world." One evening, while driving home from the studio, Maria turned to him, her tone serious yet hopeful. "This album can be more than just music, George. It's a testament to our journey, to the way we found each other again, despite everything." The warmth in her voice ignited a fire in his soul. "You're right. I want to honor that journey, to let our experiences resonate through the melodies," he replied, his conviction growing stronger. Weeks passed, and they poured their hearts into curating songs that told stories of love, struggle, and transformation. But as the album release approached, anxiety crept in, coiling tightly around George's heart. One night, he found himself sitting in his car, the engine idling quietly as self-doubt wrestled within him. What if the music didn't connect? What if he laid bare his soul only to be met with indifference? Sensing his tension, Maria watched him closely. "George, this is what we've worked for. Whether or not it resonates, you're sharing your truth. That's what really matters," she reassured him, her presence soothing like a warm blanket. "I'm scared," he admitted, the words spilling from his lips like a long-held confession. "Fear is part of the process," she said firmly. "But remember, we're being authentic. That's the essence of what we're creating." The day of the release concert dawned bright and clear. George stood backstage, his heart racing as he felt the electric energy of the crowd. As he stepped onto the stage, he scanned the sea of faces, some familiar, some strangers, and caught Maria's gaze. Her eyes sparkled with encouragement, planting seeds of courage in his heart. He opened with a song they had crafted together, its melody soaring into the night sky. With each strum of his guitar, George felt the weight of his worries lift. He was sharing not just music, but pieces of his soul. As the audience responded with cheers and applause, he realized he was no longer alone in his vulnerability. The energy exchanged between him and the crowd surged, filling the air like a sweet perfume. When he finished the last song, he paused to soak up the moment, the warmth, the love, the appreciation radiating from the audience's faces. With a deep breath, he addressed them, his voice steady and sincere. "It's not just about me. This journey is ours. Stepping off the stage, exhilaration washed over him. He found Maria waiting with open arms. "We did it," he exclaimed, joy bubbling inside him. "I can't believe how amazing that felt. You were incredible," she beamed, her eyes shimmering with pride. "I knew you could do it. This is just the beginning, George. There's so much more out there for us." As they stepped outside into the cool night air, surrounded by a star-studded sky, George felt a profound sense of connection. The journey wouldn't be without its challenges, but together they were armed with love, support, and an unbreakable bond. They had turned their trials into triumphs, shaping their past into something beautiful. In that moment, George understood that their music was a reflection of their lives, a celebration of every struggle, every victory, and the love that brought them together. Side by side, they were composing a new melody, rich with passion and authenticity, ready to embrace whatever the future held. Holding Maria close, he whispered, "Together, we'll craft our story, layer by layer, note by note." Our best days are ahead. And as they walked away from the lights of the stage, George felt the weight of the world lifted from his shoulders. They were stepping into a bright new dawn, filled with endless possibilities, hand in hand, embodying the song of their evolving lives.